Hello everyone, it's Martin Lewis here from MoneySavingExpert.com. We've had an announcement today from the regulator, the FCA, about new rules on credit card, loan and overdrafts, generally the payment holiday type stuff. Also a note about car finance, payday loans and buy now, pay later. So before I go and do the run I was planning to do, as you can probably tell, I just thought I'd talk you through briefly what they're suggesting. Now I say suggesting because what happens in these processes is they put out a consultation, they have a short period of time in which for companies and consumer groups to get back to them, and then they enact it normally a week or 10 days later. What we've seen during coronavirus is these proposals are very rarely changed. They generally get rubber stamped through at speed, and this is almost certainly what is going to happen, but it's not 100% what's going to happen. So there's some wriggle room here. We'd expect to see this be in place by the end of June, the beginning of July at the latest. So let me talk you through step by step what they've announced. First of all, with credit cards, loans and store cards, what we've already seen is people being able to get 3-month payment holidays. Now, a payment holiday is when you don't have to pay, but the interest does still rack up and you will have to make that up later. What they've said is that for those who are struggling due to coronavirus, the time you can apply for a credit card, loan or store card payment holiday has been extended to the 31st of October. So if you haven't done it yet, you've got then to apply for a 3-month payment holiday. Those who are coming to the end of their payment holiday will be allowed to apply for another 3 months if they're still in need. And they're stressing it a lot. What they're trying to do is move away from a blanket provision here to a targeted provision for only those who are really struggling. And what they're saying is if you come to the end of your current payment holiday and you can perhaps pay something back, then a partial deferral where you take a part payment holiday, let's say you pay half what you normally would, is also possible, and it's something that the credit card company, may well discuss with you. Now, as always, this won't go on your credit file, but you shouldn't take that as surety that it won't affect your future credit worthiness. By use of open banking or studying your payment history, future lenders are able to effectively spot that you have taken a payment holiday, and it is not against the rules for them to incorporate that when they're looking at your applications for future credit, including mortgages. I don't think if you just take the standard payment holidays then move on afterwards, it'll have too much of an impact, but it could have a small impact if you're on the brink. And if you combine that with the fact that all you're doing is deferring payment and interest is racking up, and interest on these products can be very high unless you're on a 0% deal, then generally my rule here now, as it was in the beginning, is only do this if needed. And if you can take a partial payment holiday, not a full payment holiday, because you can afford to repay some, then do that. So let's move on to overdrafts now. And I should say, by the way, that we'll have much more detail on all of this on Money Saving Expert. The team are feverishly working as I speak. The announcement only came out a little bit ago on trying to update all the information there, and it'll have much more technicals about how you go about it there. This is my broad brush guidance for you. So next we move on to overdrafts. Now what we saw in the overdraft market is pretty much in many of the major banks a blanket 0% overdraft to a level, some cases up to £500, sometimes the entire overdraft up to 0%. And again, that is due to continue for those in need, note the caveat, until the end of October. Now, if you got this automatically, it can be automatically extended. And in fact, what some banks have done is they've simply said everyone gets the £500 overdraft automatically. If your bank made you apply for it before and you want an extension, if you're struggling, and here, frankly, it's a no-brainer. If you can get a 0% overdraft, you should get a 0% overdraft. Everyone who's in their overdraft, I would encourage, if you need it, to get it. If your bank made you apply for an extension before, you will need to apply for an extension here. I'm just going to look at my notes that are behind the screen on what else I wanted to talk about. If it wasn't automatically extended and you need it, then you ask for it. And again, they will discuss with you whether it's necessary for you to do so. Now, so effectively, 0% overdrafts up to £500 should be available to anyone struggling from coronavirus and should continue to be available for them. That's what the proposal is. Now, the final bit of this is a little bit more complicated because another thing that they said in the initial announcement about overdrafts that has been in place is that no one should be worse off due to the overdraft changes that were due to start in April. So what we'd seen before is many banks, they'd charged on overdrafts things like 50p a day or £6 a month costs, and the regulator had said everything must now be interest rates. And in that move to everything being interest rates, yes, it worked that we got the clarity the regulator wanted, but we got this one set of pricing where pretty much every bank now started to charge around 40% or more in some cases for overdrafts. So a really, really expensive interest rate, double that of a high street credit card, and really a dangerous debt. Now, many people assume this meant everyone would pay more. That's not strictly true. If those people who had much smaller overdrafts, let's say you popped into your overdraft for a day by £1, well, 40% interest on that is nothing. But if you were charged 50p a day, that's much more. So actually, for many people with smaller overdrafts or those who weren't in their overdrafts for long, these interest rates were cheaper. It's for those who were consistently in their overdraft that the new 40% type rates, and especially if you had bigger overdrafts, that you were going to pay a lot more. Now, what the regulator said when it brought in the first payment holidays is nobody should be worse off. It's effectively dropped that clause for this extension. It's saying no one who's struggling should be worse off. So you see there's a subtle difference. In practice, I think banks will probably keep the blanket provisions, or they will have to wait on it. But it does mean if you're going to be worse off, so generally, let's say you've got an overdraft of £500 or more and you're constantly in it, because you've got the buffer zone anyway, and you would be worse off under these new proposals than you would otherwise, then speak to your bank and they have the provisions to lower your interest rate. I'm slightly wishy on this at the moment because this is one of those things where it's not that clear and we want to check it out. So there'll be more details on Money Saving Expert on exactly how that works once we've managed to tease it out of the regulator. But broad brush, the overdraft provisions that are there now are staying for those who are struggling. And then the final thing that I talked about was, final thing they talked about was payday loans, buy now, pay later, and the other similar types of credit provisions that we've had payment holidays on. All they've said now is they're expecting to make announcements on those. And I think we've got a very, very straightforward pattern now looking at the mortgage payment extensions and now the credit card loans and overdrafts. They're going to continue the provision that they had before, but they're going to try and make it far more conditional on the fact that you're struggling due to coronavirus. And it should be much more targeted help. They're trying not to encourage people just to take these as a wait and see because I don't know what's going to happen with my finances. And that's roughly where we are. I hope you find that useful. As I say, much more detail, and in case I got anything wrong or it's changed once we start to delve through and the interpretation I've given you isn't quite spot on, I'm probably 95% there, but some of it does take questions and answers to come back. You'll find all that on moneysavingexpert.com.